2023 Nissan Livina vs Mitsubishi Xpander comparison, spec sheet battle. Twin MPV matchup. Nissan Philippines has brought in the Livina MPV in September 2022. It is the Japanese marque's entry into the competitive 7-seater MPV segment, and so buyers looking to get a family-friendly model now have an additional choice to consider. As we have seen on its launch, the Livina looks very familiar. In fact, some elements of this Nissan-branded MPV are practically identical to the Mitsubishi Xpander. Those who paid attention, of course, are unsurprised by this, as they knew all along that both of these MPVs share a common platform. Also, both models belong to the Renault-Nissan-Mitsubishi alliance. For a prospective buyer though, this might become confusing. So to see just how these two differ from each other, we'll be comparing their specifications. Specifically, we're putting the Livina VL 1.5 at against the Xpander GLS 1.5 at. That's because they're actually close in terms of pricing, and both are top-spec models. Exterior. For their dimensions, the Nissan Livina is 4,510 mm long, 1,750 mm wide, and 1,700 mm in height. It also has a wheelbase length of 2,775 mm, and a ground clearance of 205 mm. The Xpander in turn is 4,595 mm long, 1,750 mm wide, and 1,750 mm in height. It then has a wheelbase spanning 2,775 mm, as well as a ground clearance of 225 mm. The Mitsubishi Xpander is slightly longer and taller compared to its Nissan sibling. It also has more in the way of ground clearance. But besides that, both models come with identical width and wheelbase measurements. Nestled on the front ends of these two MPV models are a pair of LED daytime running lamps that are similar in shape. Both also get similar-looking LED taillights for the rear. Both also get a roof-mounted rear spoiler. For their main headlamps though, the top-spec Livina only gets a pair of halogens. The top-spec Xpander GLS meanwhile, comes with a pair of LED-type headlamps. These come with a different design than the ones on the Livina, and being LEDs, these will prove to be brighter as well. On both vehicles, the main headlamps are positioned parallel to their grills just below the LED daytime running lamps. Speaking of front ends, the biggest difference between the two is their front fascia. The Livina sports the Nissan signature V-Motion grille, whereas the Xpander gets the signature Mitsubishi Dynamic Shield design. The rear ends of these two vehicles also get a wiper. The one on the Livina though does not have a rear defogger, which is already available for the Xpander. Other than the front, the Livina and the Xpander look quite similar from the side and the rear. The Livina VL model does get a set of smaller 16-inch alloy wheels, whereas the Xpander GLS comes with a larger 17-inch alloy set. Interior. Step inside these two MPVs and you'll find that both can seat up to 7 occupants. Both also have 60-40 split folding second-row seats, as well as 50-50 split folding third-row seats. The said seats on both models are also wrapped in black-colored leather. With regards to driving amenities, both the top-spec Livina and top-spec Xpander get a tilt and telescopic steering column. Their steering wheels are also clad in leather. Starting these two MPVs is also made easy with a push-to-start button, and both come with analog gauge clusters, as well as a colored digital display. The Xpander GLS is also great for long road trips since it gets a cruise control system. The Livina meanwhile, does not. For both models though, finding the right driving position is done via manually adjustable seats. Concerning air conditioning systems however, the one on the Livina VL is a more basic dial-type manual system. The one on the Xpander GLS, on the other hand, is an automatic climate control system. For onboard entertainment, the Livina VL gets a 7-inch touchscreen head unit. The same goes for the Xpander GLS. But despite assuming the same size, the one on the Mitsubishi model proves to be more updated as it gets Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. The Livina meanwhile does not have these connectivity features. With that difference, one can say that linking a smartphone to the Xpander's touchscreen might prove to be easier compared to the Livina's touchscreen. Both screens also seem to use different operating systems respectively. Both head units do come with Bluetooth, a radio tuner, as well as a USB port. Both head units are likewise connected to a 6-piece speaker system. Safety. Handling safety for both the top-spec Livina and the top-spec Xpander is an anti-lock braking system with electronic brake force distribution, vehicle dynamic control, and traction control. These two MPVs are also kitted out with a hill start assist, as well as ISOFIX child seat anchors. Parking both the Livina VL and the Xpander GLS is also made easy thanks to the presence of reverse cameras and parking sensors. Lastly, both top-spec trims for these two models also get a total of 2 airbags each. Engine. Under the hood of both the Nissan Livina and the Mitsubishi Xpander is a 1.5-liter inline-4 gasoline engine. Of note, these are the same exact 4A91 mil that's good for 104 horsepower and 141 Nm of torque. Like the Philippine-spec Xpander, the Livina also uses either a 4-speed automatic gearbox or a 5-speed manual transmission. In the case of their respective top-spec models, they both use the 4-speed automatic gearbox. Both the Livina and Xpander are also front-wheel drive unibody models. Likewise, both utilize a McPherson strut for the front, and a torsion beam for the rear. These two also have identical bits for braking. Specifically, they each use ventilated disc brakes for the front wheels, and both use a drum brake for the rear. Both also use a hand-operated parking brake. Price: Nissan Livina variants. Price: Livina E 1.5 MT. PHP 1,029,000. Livina L 1.5 at. PHP 1,109,000. Livina VE 1.5 at. PHP 1,149,000. Livina VL 1.5 at. PHP 1,209,000. Mitsubishi Xpander. Price: Xpander GLX 1.5 G2 WDMT. PHP 1,050,000. Xpander GLX 1.5 G2 WD at. PHP 1,110,000. Xpander GLS 1.5 G2 WD at. PHP 1,180,000. Conclusion: with these two being really similar to each other in terms of mechanical specs, power outputs and interior space, it is understandable that a buyer will look into other elements that make them unique from each other. That said, the head unit on the Mitsubishi model brings more convenience in the form of its Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. For some, that might be a marginal difference, but for others, it will make or break a car. The top-spec Livina is a bit pricier compared to the Xpander GLS though. So in this case, this is where personal preference might step in. Do you prefer the look of the V-Motion grille on the Livina? Or do you like the dynamic shield on the Xpander a bit better? Beyond that, we urge you to give these two models a good old test drive. That is if you're really on the fence between these two MPVs.